all. I'm sorry I missed some of it. I'll catch up. I was at a ranking member on a hearing in judiciary. So I guess I'll start with you, Mr. LeGeyt. As you know, I lead the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act to ensure that broadcasters and news publishers can negotiate for fair compensation with the big tech platforms, including some generative AI platforms. So it's becoming, to me, more and more important we go forward with this. And we know there's been profiting off of news content across the board. The National Association of Broadcasters has said that this legislation would level the playing field by enabling fair negotiations and increased investment in local newsrooms. Why is it so critical for local news to empower news creators to negotiate their fair share of advertising revenue with big tech platforms? As you know, I lead that bill in the past with Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Senator, for the question. Over the course of the last 2 decades, and I think this is an item that everyone on this panel can agree with, the big tech platforms have siphoned billions of dollars out of local communities. More than 70% of the ad marketplace has gone from traditional media over to big tech, and that's undermining our ability to fulfill that local obligation that's been the topic of today's hearing. The JCPA is an extremely meaningful way to allow for leveling that playing field, allow us to negotiate fair compensation when our content is accessed through those platforms and increasingly through the generative AI platforms. But that lack of scale is also a symptom of what we are talking about here today, which is that broadcasters lack that scale to compete with these global behemoths in every context. And an important first step is for the FCC to update these broadcast ownership rules, which would allow us to better compete with the tech platforms as well.
Okay, thank you. Sort of along these lines, as you know, Senator Cruz and I passed our bill, the Take It Down Act, regarding non-consensual porn, both AI-created and actual. We've seen so many suicides of kids over this, and we passed it, and the president signed it into law this last year. The next step to me is the deepfakes bill that Senators Coons, Blackburn, Tillis, and I have put forward that would establish rules of the road to give artists, musicians, anyone control over their own voice. In a previous hearing, you told a story about how people had created deepfakes of local news broadcasters. Could you talk, while I know this is a little off the focus, but not actually, because all of this stuff is making it harder for the real news to get out there, the effect of this and the need for some rules on AI?
Thank you, Senator. I'm happy to talk about it because it's existential. A local broadcaster is only as good as the trust that we have in our local communities, and these deep fakes, especially of local news anchors on our radio stations, local voices, risk undermining that trust. So we are significant supporters of your no fakes legislation. Look forward to working very, very closely together and advocating to get that over the finish line, because it is absolutely essential to ensure maintaining that trust on local stations as opposed to what's going on online.
Thank you. Mr. Waldman, we've seen AI developers enter into licensing agreements with some of the largest publishers, New York Times, Associated Press, Wall Street Journal. I'm concerned, however, that smaller papers, which we still have a number of them in Minnesota, yes, that lack resources to protect their intellectual property, are not benefiting from similar deals. What role should companies that profit from AI models that use news content play in ensuring journalists and newspapers are fairly compensated?
I share that concern. There have been deals with big corporate media, but medium and small-sized players have been left out, and the AI companies have said they're too small.
Didn't USA Today do some study that, going off script here, always trouble, but just showing that it's some of the smaller markets that were getting things stolen more, because there's no way for them to access that, so instead of making agreements with them, they're taking the content.
It's easy. The papers and the TV stations don't have the resources to fight it. They don't know how to track it. And so, yes, they're being...
The AI companies don't have that data on some of the smaller stuff. I know this from checking, like you go in an area, a small town where there's a flood, and they have tons of stuff wrong all the time.
Well, that's the great riddle here, is that local news is degrading. AI is making it worse potentially, and that will make AI worse, because AI needs to have accurate local
So
information.
how can we ensure, last question, that smaller newspapers are paid for their content by AI companies?
Well, one is bills like yours or other efforts to require that local folks are treated evenly and that they have the ability to organize collectively. I would also say that you'd want to look at things like mitigation fees placed on big tech companies that could be used to finance legislation to support local media.
Did you put your thumb up, Mr. Ruddy? Or your hand up?
No, I'm sorry. I was just, somebody waved to me. One of the photographers. I figured I'd wave back.
Okay, that's a very good move. All right, very good. Well, I mostly just think we need to think of this. There have been a bunch of Republicans and Democrats willing to talk about this. There's been a bunch of more conservative news organizations that we've been able to work on this. And just to sit there, to me, the potential of, outside of this merger issue, that the AI potential here too, if we do legislation, that we make sure we're even the playing field. I believe Senator Fisher's up for questions.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar.